Libya has caused a refugee crisis on a mass scale. Some 180,000 foreign workers have streamed across Libya's borders. The UN says more than 90,000 have fled to Tunisia, and some 80,000 have crossed into Egypt. Another 2,500 have crossed at the Niger border. But while agencies are warning of a growing crisis for those refugees, thousands more are still stuck inside Libya. Bernard Smith reports.
Thousands of Bangladeshis are the latest in a stream of refugees to make it across the border from Libya into Tunisia. Waiting for them, a tent camp that can house up to 20,000 people. It's already full. But aid from Europe and the United States is arriving, and the process of moving these people home is picking up. Britain, France and the US are providing aircraft to help the evacuation. The UN says that the number of refugees crossing into Tunisia has actually dropped significantly because the border there is now manned by heavily armed pro-Gaddafi forces. So almost all of Libya's neighbours could end up dealing with fleeing workers. Some have now fled through Algeria, further down Libya's western frontier. And up to 100,000 people may try to cross into Niger in the coming months. That's according to the UN. At Egypt's frontier with Libya, hundreds of African refugees are stranded in a border no man's land. Some have been there for days. Here, the Egyptian authorities have tightened security, fearing that mercenaries hired by Gaddafi may try to flee to Egypt. Bernard Smith, AlJazeera.
The U.S. government has flown in aid supplies to help the thousands stranded along the Tunisian-Libyan border. President Obama insists his administration's current priority is to deliver humanitarian assistance to them. But as Kimberly Halkett reports, many on Capitol Hill are calling for harsher measures.
The U.S. State Department is trying to push the message right now that when it comes to Libya, the U.S. focus is on a humanitarian effort. Right now, it is currently unloading two C-130 planes full of blankets, water, plastic sheeting to help those refugees who have amassed along the border. Later, those same planes will be used in the evacuation effort. But at the same time, there are still calls for the no-fly zone to be put in place over Libya from members of Capitol Hill, prominent Senate Republican and Democrats. But at the same time, the president saying he is going to seek the humanitarian option first, but he is not ruling anything out, that he is preparing to react quickly should the humanitarian situation deteriorate further.
Well, organizations with links to the Gaddafi regime have come increasingly under the spotlight. In the UK, the head of the London School of Economics has resigned after disclosures that the university accepted multi-million donations. Students, though, have come to his defense, as Paul Brennan reports.
The London School of Economics counts some of the world's top political and business leaders among its alumni. But it's the donations of one particular former student, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, which have shaken this university all the way to the top. Sir Howard Davis, the LSE director, quit on Thursday, accepting blame for the school's close links to the Libyan regime.
I decided that I would not stay on because the reputation of the school is my responsibility, and it has, as you rightly say, been damaged, and I think I need to take the responsibility for that.
The LSE Council has commissioned the former Lord Chief Justice, Lord Woolf, to look into the financial dealings with Libya, including a $3.6 million contract to train Libyan officials in leadership skills, a $2.4 million donation from Saif Gaddafi's charitable foundation, and $37,000 from the same foundation for academics to travel to Libya. Sir Howard remains popular among LSE students, most of whom blame his demise on circumstance rather than judgment.
No one condones what Gaddafi's doing. It's terrible, it's disgusting, and we'd be stupid to accept any type of money today. But that money that they gave 5 years ago was to help African development and research in Africa, and it was done through legal channels. There was nothing underhand so far that we know about. So I just think, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as you say, and it's all just been blown out of proportion, to be honest.
He's extremely unlucky because, it just so happens that now everyone's seeing Gaddafi under a bad eye because of what's happening. He has to take the blame for it. It seems kind of unfair.
I think it's more a publicity issue than an issue of, say, the stewardship of the university.
One student leader says other academics, other universities are equally culpable.
Students are actually questioning what's happening at the university, where they're getting their money from, but also, even at the LSE, there are other people who are in the upper echelons of this university who still need to sort of come to terms publicly with what they've done in the past.
Few here believe the LSE is alone among British academic institutions in having accepted past legitimate donations from now deeply questionable sources. And Howard Davis's resignation still leaves many questions unanswered. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera at the London School of Economics.
To the United States now, and the man accused of killing 6 people in January's Arizona massacre could be facing the death penalty. Prosecutors in Phoenix have expanded the indictments against Jared Loughner. This will start a review to determine if he should be executed. The 22-year-old was already charged with the attempted killing of U.S. Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and the deaths of 5 other people. A hedge fund manager accused of leading the largest insider trading ring in history has appeared at a pre-trial hearing in New York. Galleon Fund founder Raj Rajaratnam is accused of soliciting inside information from workers at publicly traded companies. Prosecutors claim his fund made $45 billion. And staying in the U.S., there appears to be an upturn in employment levels. Figures from the U.S. Labor Department show workers were hired at the fastest pace in the 9 months to February. The jobless rate has also slipped to a nearly 2-year low of just under 9%. The ongoing dispute between Wisconsin's trade unions and the state governor appears to be escalating. Relations have been strained over a budget balancing bill that would strip workers of their collective bargaining rights. And now Governor Scott Walker has issued layoff warning notices for state workers. Well, Frank Emspak, the founder of and producer of Workers' Independent News Network, says it is difficult to see how the employees and the politicians can reach an agreement.
There have been attempts to discuss things, but they have not reached fruition. And the governor has now said or ordered the Capitol Police or the state police to detain any Democratic senators who enter the state, bring them to the State House, willingly or not, and once they enter the state capitol, declare there is a quorum, even if the senators are not in the chamber, and pass the law. The senators, the Democratic senators, have continued to maintain that they will not come to the state of Wisconsin under these circumstances. So it's an impasse, and we do not know what's going to happen. The governor has raised the stakes by claiming that if this budget repair bill, this is a 3-month bill, incidentally, is not passed to lay off state workers. I know that state workers have, or some state agency have printed up layoff notices, but this is the beginning of a longer process because the real budget, the 2-year budget, was also proposed the other day, which has draconian cuts in a whole variety of areas. So lots and lots of people are upset, but it goes beyond a specific budget bill. The unions have already conceded the total amount of money that the governor requested in the so-called budget repair bill. And so from the point of view of money and budget, that's not an issue, and the only thing that's left is the right to bargain, which is what is being taken away here, and not just in sort of, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, but it's done in a subtle way